mean, first of all, congratulations on signing to Reach Records. I don't think anyone really saw that coming. So, what made
Yeah.
you announce that in New York? And also, how long has that been in the works? How long was that
hmm
conversation happening?
The place of the announcement was Reach's idea,
Okay.
because New York just has great energy every time. That's one, and then it just so happened that Lecrae was in New York at the same time for some kind of like conference, and so we just felt like, oh, that'd be the opportune time to make this public or whatever. It's not been a long conversation. Like I started to think through and play with the idea of potentially partnering with Reach probably around the Stalo remix.
Okay.
That was when I started to really think about the possibility of getting back into music and what it would look like to partner with a label to do that. And when I considered options, I felt like I wanted to work with a label who I had some level of trust in because I knew Ace.
Right.
Ace went to church with me. Like we would serve in children's church together. And so like that was really a big component. It was like, man, I don't want to just partner with just anybody. I want to partner with people I can trust. So
So you initiated the conversation kind of
yeah.
after that remix.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, hey, I got an idea. I want y'all to, listen to it, see, consider it, pray about it. Cause I prayed about it before I even had the conversation. And so yeah, I think it was an easy conversation.
And then how did the actual remix come about? They reached out to you for that?
Yeah, so I think Toya Love hit me up on Threads about joining the remix. And then I was like, oh yeah, no problem. And that was kind of how my connection with Reach started
Okay.
because then
Gotcha.
Ace he came up to me at church. And I was like, oh, I didn't know you worked at Reach. So it just all kind of just came together. I really can't even explain it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I know over the
Yeah.
years you've kind of liked to remind everybody that you can rap, drop in a little snippets here and there
Yeah.
and little clips on Instagram. Um, but you kind of mentioned that you didn't think you would be releasing music in this capacity again. So in your
Mhm.
mind, what was music going to look like for you? Was it more of a hobby or you didn't really have any expectations?
Yeah, I thought it would be a hobby because I mean, my last album, Crescendo, was 2018.
Yeah.
And I really felt like the Lord wanted me to step away from music for the sake of my own family and for me to also steward the other gifts that he had given me well. And so I felt like the Lord was saying, like, just because you can do many things doesn't mean you should do everything. And so you need to pick what's most fruitful. And I believed and still believe that what was most fruitful was teaching, preaching, and writing.
Uh-huh.
And so I think I appreciate what God did because, like, in these 6 years, I've been able to write curriculums, books, release a lot of content that helps people to know God and love their neighbor. And so I thought that music would never be an option until I made the decision last year that I was going to pause on writing books for like 2 years. So I've just been writing consistently. And that's when I started to feel like, oh, I think there's some margin here to write music because music is easier than writing books. It really is. And so it
Yeah.
just felt like, oh, I could just put out something and then never do it again. so
Yeah.
that's where I'm on. It's like I just want to have fun with it and then get back to what I feel called to do.
Awesome. Awesome. So on Instagram, you said the last 2 years were full of private pain and betrayal. So kind of having music back into your life, do you think this was a
Hmm.
perfect time for that? Because, music can help people get out of places. And I know in first draft you mentioned Isaiah 53, which is about the
hmm
suffering and pain. So does that all kind of allude to the answer?
Hmm. I haven't thought of that. I'm pretty sure what my life has been recently and even previously to like, when I was a child. It's gonna come through for sure.
Yeah.
Because I think what I'm bringing to the table now is I'm older, right? So my
Hmm.
last album came out when I was, I don't know, 26, 27. Only had a couple kids. Now I got 4 kids, 10 years married, almost 35, right? So I'm just in a different life stage. And so I think because of that, the music really will, I hope, help people think deeply just about what it means to be human, but also in
Hmm.
Christ, which means it's going to be hard, but it's also joyful.
Right. Okay. And first draft kind of is like dusting off the pen, right? To exercise yourself. So does that really mean that you're starting from scratch from writing, or do you already have like a couple of songs that you could kind of knock out?
Uh, no, I don't have any songs. So even the little clips I was putting up on Instagram over the last, what, 2 years was me just keeping my, pen sharp,
Yeah.
just in case. Because I think writing and artistry is a muscle that you got to work, or you
Hmm.
just gonna start sounding bad. And so first draft is really those are two freestyles I just wrote in the car that I just threw together. And so it really is a first draft because it's good, but it's not great to me. And so it's like me saying, no, this is me rusty. So what is me better?
Right.
I think that's what the projects will be.
Okay. It's funny that you
Yeah.
said you kind of staying ready as if like at any moment someone's like, give me a verse now. Put your
You
hands
just
up. Give
never
me a
know.
verse. I'm ready. I'm ready. I got
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I heard J. Cole said that he did that. Like he just always was writing raps, just to make sure that he could perfect his craft.
yeah. No, that's great.
Yeah.
So obviously you're known for many things by your fan base, poetry, books, podcasts with your husband. So how do you think that your fan base is actually split up? Because I would
Hmm.
imagine, especially recently, most of your followers aren't there because of the music. So will
Hmm.
those people follow along? Like, do you have any thoughts on that?
That's a great question. I mean, from the response, it seems as if many people who might follow me because of books or content are excited on some level. And I think it might be because the music might be a different medium, but it's still the same expression of theology, you know what
Right,
I'm saying, and
right.
thoughtfulness and depth. And so I think as long as I stay consistent when comes to what I'm talking about, I can imagine that people will rock with it. Now, how people might feel about this, like when I release some content that sounds more trap oriented, where they don't, where it's just vibes, they might not know what to
Yeah,
do with that, but that's all right.
yeah. I guess you'll find out. That'll be
Yeah.
the experimentation. So do you have kind of this season as a reach artist mapped out yet? Like, because obviously there's music, then there might be touring behind that, like
Hmm.
stepping away from things that you are normally doing. Like, what does that look like? Or is it sort of just open and you just go as you go?
Yeah, it's fluid. I'm not a music touring person. Even with my other
Okay.
albums, I didn't tour like that. So it'll really
Okay.
just be music that I put out but never perform. I think right now it's just like I'm just excited to work on stuff, to make music, to make songs, not even just like because you could be a good rapper, but you can't like some people can rap good but not make good songs. So I'm excited to make
Yeah.
strong songs and cohesive albums or album. I don't know how many I'll make. And then when it's done, it's done. Because I still got school, I still got a parent, I still got to preach, I still got to do stuff. And so I don't ever
Yeah.
want, I don't want there to be too much competition between all of the things that I'm juggling.
I got you. I got you. All right. So I want to dive into some of the things you said on first draft for a little bit. And I know you said it was a freestyle, but with
Hmm.
Father's Day being on Sunday, and then you also made that post about your father. And in
Hmm.
first draft, I reject the hug because daddy didn't. The baggie with the crack up in it held his hand more than me. I'm a father. I have a daughter. Looking
Hmm.
back on your relationship, seeing Preston's relationship with your daughters, what's something that every girl dad should know?
Hmm. Um, that presence is important, but also affirmation is important. I think there's a real sense in which a girl gets some sense of her own security and identity from her dad's presence and his affirmation. Because he could be there, but if he ain't talking, then it's like I'm still abandoned, right? And so
Yeah.
I think that's what I needed and wanted, just as a human being, and that's what I see Preston give our girls is that he is present, but he is also always communicating his love and his appreciation for them, who they are, their beauty, their talents, their intelligence. And so I think that's just a really important feature of parenting is presence, but also communicating that you love them.
Yeah. Yeah, I do see that with my daughter all the time, where sometimes she's just calling me or she just wants me, but it's just because she wants my attention, She's like,
Right.
I want daddy to look at me, to pick me up, to play with me, whatever. It's not necessarily that she
Hmm.
needs anything. So definitely an important reminder. Um, Now for this, I understand the sentiment, but I was curious if it's actually about something specific, how you end off the song, making video after video, pointing fingers in the ad space, watch 5 minutes, blinked while in it, one snippet, did it, guess I had planks. Like, is there
Hmm.
kind of a deeper story to that, or you were just
Yeah.
speaking
Yeah, I'm talking
generally?
about all I'm talking about the rising popularity of heresy hunting content, where people are making video after video after video after video, so-called exposing false teachers or all the things. And I'm pointing to the irony of that. They're doing it while ads are placed in between it, which is to say that
Yeah.
some of this content has some level of selfish ambition underneath. And so I think it is wise and it is helpful and necessary to call out error and to defend and contend for the faith. But I also think we need to be careful at consuming content that is actually making us more critical and therefore building planks in our eyes. So that's what I'm that's
So
what I'm hinting at.
So when you see something like that, like let's just say somebody did something, rather than obviously going and making a video about it, would you generally just leave it alone, or are you actually trying to speak to these people on a level without making some big public, statement about
Well,
it?
I have access to some people and I've had conversations. That's one, right?
Right.
So I'm actually doing something privately. Two, when I look at it at how can I cultivate wisdom, discernment, love for God, love for his scriptures in such a way that it actually undercuts the influence of false teaching. What I mean is, if in Second Timothy 4, it says that people accumulate teachers to suit their own passions, then one of the ways to deal with false teaching isn't simply just to expose it, but to also deal with the passions of those who listen to the teachers because it does something to their affections. And so we can't just expect that exposure actually fixes passions. What fixes passions is gospel preaching. And so I think some of this content is just, it lacks a comprehensive discipleship nature to it, where I am teaching and trying to raise up people to love God and love their neighbor. And when you do that, they won't listen to the preachers anymore. So I think that's a part of I think that's a part of the work that's being missed here when we just make video after video after video after video, but we're not actually doing anything.
Yeah, yeah, I got you. Now, all right,
Yeah.
now what about the part of the song and reading the lyrics it says like "Oh Jupiter" and then in the background there's kind of like muffled vocals. What's going on there? Or
That's Ace. He
it's
literally
Ace.
mumbled some stuff.
So
Yeah,
that's
so
actually
he
that's
just
all it is. There's no deeper
it,
meaning to what he's
it
saying.
ain't he's saying something, it's like about like God coming back or something like that, but it's like it's mumbly. So it just vibes. It wasn't supposed to be meaningful.
Okay, so it became
Yeah.
part of like the texture of the beat essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all.
Okay, I was like, oh man, I'm gonna ask her and maybe get some deep insight. Well,
Nah.
Thank you, Ace. All right. So we were having this conversation the other day in among the Rapzilla people. So if you had to put your albums together, Art of Joy, Crescendo, which one do you think is a better body of work? Which one do you think holds up better now?
Ah, that's hard. I like them both. I really do. Because when I think of Art of Joy, I think of Ode to Lauren. I think of the song with me and Ishan. I think of, like those are strong songs. But then when I think of Crescendo, I do think that I had matured in my skill set. I think my tone is different. I think the song structure is different. So if I had to say one, it'd probably be Crescendo.
Okay.
If I had to.
Okay. Okay. And
Yeah.
do you actually listen to yourself, to your music
Like once a year, I
once
do.
a year?
And I'm like, oh, I like these songs. Art of Joy is harder to listen to because it feels amateur. Uh, but it's a few songs on there that I'm like, oh, this is tight. This is really enjoyable.
So if you weren't Jackie, you'd be a fan of Jackie, is what you're saying.
Huh. I ain't never thought of that. Uh, maybe I can be very really critical, and so maybe I would be. I think I would be. I hope I would be.
Yeah,
I
well,
don't
if
know.
I don't know. Well, if you're saying the first project sounds amateur, it looks like, you're already being critical toward yourself.
That's
I
true.
I I think I think
Yeah.
most people would be like, "Oh, this is a really solid body of work." But you as the artist, you
Yeah.
could probably go song by song and be like, "Ah, I could have did that better. Should have said this
Yeah.
here. Maybe I wouldn't have said that."
Yeah. Yeah, I hear a lot of just mistakes and things, and because even since then I've listened to more music and been more intentional of paying attention to the dynamics of a song. And I think that was that's one of the things that I want to grow in when it comes to new music. It's just dynamics. Like, one thing about Kendrick that I can appreciate is that his song, if it's different movements throughout the song. It
Yeah.
isn't just that he's rapping good. It's like pauses and his background stuff and it's shifting, and he has this instrument that wasn't on the first verse. And so I think that's what I haven't done well, and that's what irritates me.
So is that kind of what you're looking to maybe accomplish in this next batch of music that you create? Just taking those influences that you have and applying it.
Yeah, yeah, just not just being a strong rapper, man, but like making a project that feels like not like movies or cinematic in the
Yeah.
sense of weightiness. I'm not talking about Hans Zimmer, but where there is movement and moments where it continues to be interesting for 2 or 3 minutes. That's what I'm after, somehow,
Okay.
some way. And I think with Reach, I think me and Ace will be able to create that.
So, do you think maybe the music that you were listening to 10 years ago was more reflective on what you did then, as opposed to like what
Yeah.
your tastes are now?
Yeah, because I think then I was trying to prove myself as a rapper.
Okay.
So most of what I was listening to and doing was to say I can rap. I feel like now I don't have to prove that to anybody. And so I can lay off the pedal when it comes to like lyrics and lyricism in a way to just if I have to, like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't have that pressure like I used to have. Because I was a girl. It's like, oh, she's a poet. Like at that time, I was just a poet, right? And so it's like
Yeah.
I had to prove something. Like that monkey is off my back at this point.
Yeah, you've accomplished quite a bit. And like I said, probably majority people know you for things outside of music too. So
Yeah,
it's just now it's just coming back and saying, "Hey, look, I could still do this." And it's easy. I don't have to prove myself.
yeah,
So
yeah, and I think like I've had content recently where I'm criticizing certain secular artists, certain secular music, and it feels important to create music that is true, but also feels good, right? Because like it's hard out here as a Christian to try to guard your eyes and your ears and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, it's like we're like vegans. It's like, okay, we if we can't eat meat, we need some good alternatives.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So it feels like a responsibility for the sake of like our own hearts and like enjoyments to make just songs that are good alternatives to what the world is giving us.
Does that scare you at all? Because for me, and I'll explain where I'm coming from, as someone who has done music journalism for over a decade and critiquing and artists asking my opinion and me telling people, like if I were to put out music, I would be really afraid. It's like I'm telling everybody what to do and how to do it. Now, what if my stuff isn't up to par?
Mm,
Like what if
hmm
what if I'm actually really terrible? Like does that invalidate everything that I said to everybody else?
mm, mm. No, it doesn't scare me. Because my criticism has never been about the quality of secular
Right.
music or the sound of secular music. It sounds great. The quality is great. It's the content.
Yeah.
It's what's being communicated. And so to me, as long as I'm able to stay faithful to scripture and valuing God and what I say, then I don't have any fear. If anything, I have a lot more excitement and confidence to know that God is, by his grace, I believe God will be with me as I create because he cares about his people. you know? And
Right.
so, yeah, that makes me very confident.
Okay, good. All right, so talking about confidence, you do have an elite pen. You could be humble about it, we know, but everyone always puts you in the conversation. So I'm curious who you would say among your peers in Christian hip hop, who are five lyricists that you look at that are like, the top five?
Um, I don't think there's a lot of lyricism in Christian hip hop, so it's hard to count five. Um, but I do think what's that group with No Big Deal in it?
Indie Tribe?
Yeah, I think they can rap for sure. I
Okay.
think I think yeah, I think Aha has a it's not like a boom bap lyricism, but he has a way with words. It's very clever and interesting. Um, and I enjoy Hovey. Other than that, yeah.
What do you feel is next for you? Like aside from making the music, I know you're finishing up your tour. Do you have any like immediate plans or things in the works?
Yeah, music, and I have just some stuff with my husband coming up, some stuff with some friends. Like I really want to invest in our generation and just help to make disciples that make disciples. That just feels really important, you know?
Yeah.
I think what influencer culture can create is this idea that people who are in the public or who are visible or who have the podcast that they are the ones who are responsible to make disciples. But I actually think it's the people who have the public ministry that need to be commissioning people and saying, no, like, no, God has commissioned all of us to go therefore and make disciples of all nations. So that's kind of just how like music is a form of that for me. It's
Okay.
I'm just trying to spend my energy and my time to help people love God and love their neighbor. That's it.
What was there a person like that for you when you were coming up?
There's still people like that for me. So, when I first came to faith, I was discipled, and knowing my word and knowing how to pray. And then I moved to Chicago and got connected with Brian Dye from Legacy Conference. And Brian just trained me how to be a leader and how to care about other people. And Melody Fabian, who's still in my life, who has helped me to learn how to just make disciples of my children, how to honor my husband. And so in every season, I've always had somebody who is help guiding me. And
Yeah.
so I don't know, it's just important. Like it's an important thing that I don't want us to neglect in this super narcissistic, individualistic culture.
Yeah, no, it is important because one of the things I always hear about from artists is, and older artists be like, I wish I had that previous generation to actually mentor me, or even younger artists.
Mm,
I don't have access to some of the bigger artists for mentorship. So I know that's been a big thing on a lot of people's hearts within the space is trying to,
mm,
like you said, make disciples. So I'm glad you actually had somebody coming up too, because most people didn't. And then
yeah,
that's why when people make mistakes, everyone's so shocked, but it's like they didn't have anybody guiding them through. It's unfortunate.
yeah, yeah. That's what the local church is for, man. Like, and I think that's one of the things that is difficult for some people, some artists, some ministers, is that sometimes they can get so busy pouring out that they're not investing in something locally where they are being poured into. And I think that's a spiritual maturity problem,
Yeah.
where, you're booked at churches, but you're not a part of a church. I think that will always every person I know in this industry who either lacks spiritual maturity or is a hypocrite on some level, they are disconnected from a local church every time. And so
Yeah.
if we want to fix something, we fix that.
Right. Right. And yeah, and a lot of people are seeking validation away from that, where it's like you have
Yes.
something local that could validate you right in person instead of trying to
Hmm.
get in an artist DMs and be like, mentor me, speak with me.
That part.
Yeah.
That part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got you. Understood. All right. So anything else that the people need to know, should be looking forward to? Uh,
No,
as
we're gonna have fun, man. I think these next things will be they'll be different on some level. Like, I'll my previous albums with Humble Beast were a lot more boom bap. But I
Mhm.
want to kind of reclaim that my musical heritage when it comes to the fact that I'm from St. Louis. You know what I'm saying? So I grew up on Yo Gotti, 8 Ball and JG, 3 6 Mafia, Project Pat, LaChat, stuff like that was what I grew up on. And so I kind of want to figure out what it sounds like for me to be Jackie from St. Louis and Jackie from Humble Beast with Reach. I think that could be fun.
There's a lot of dynamics there.
Yeah.
Are you gonna be pulling any help from any of the St. Louis artists, the Missouri artists?
Uh I don't know. I think the sounds we pick will dictate the people I call. And
Okay.
so I don't think feature first. I think no, let's create the sound and then see who can join it.
Okay, I got you. Well, we'll be
Yeah.
looking forward to it. We'll be covering everything along the way. Appreciate you taking the time and rescheduling,
Thank
and
you.
yeah, bless you on the rest of this tour. Traveling mercies
I,
everywhere, and I hope you
I appreciate you.
you keep making that big impact.
All right. Thank you, Justin.
All right, Jackie. Good to meet you.
No problem. No
All right,
problem.
bye.